We're not going to be distracted. We're just going to keep on asking the questions we've been asking, getting information out that no one else is able to get because no one else is brave enough to ask. We heard a lot of noise this week, and I call it the January 6th propaganda week. It was, I don't know if you were watching TV, on January 6th or following it online, but the Democratic political media complex smearing and defamation of tens of millions of Americans to advance their agenda using January 6th as a pretext was some of the ugliest activity I've ever seen here in Washington, D.C. It was awful. It was truly awful. And you had Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi giving out false information about police officers killed in the line of duty, really the January 6th. No officer died that day. Officer Sicknick died the next day from natural causes. They say officers committed suicide after January 6th. I'm not aware that January 6th was behind those suicides. Are you? The only person killed on January 6th were Trump supporters. Well, persons killed on January 6th was Trump supporters. The only person officially deemed to have died via homicide on January 6th at that disturbance was Ashley Babbitt, who was needlessly shot by a U.S. Capitol Hill police officer. So what you heard about with January 6th was basically, it was all pretextual to further help the left obtain and retain power and oppress their opposition. Because the thinking is, when you hear people like Vice President Harris defame Americans by suggesting that if you question the election, you're an insurrectionist or an Al-Qaeda type terrorist, or this is new to me, you're like the Japanese who bombed Pearl Harbor. Their goal, and it's been quite clear, certainly in Biden's vicious speech, is to use January 6th as a pretext to undermine election security. So that's an interesting way to defend democracy, by making it more likely that elections could be changed through fraud. The purpose of election security measures like voter ID are to make it harder to change elections through fraud. But the left wants to undermine all those security measures. That's why they oppose Judicial Watch's efforts to clean up the rolls. That's why they oppose voter ID. That's why they support ballot harvesting. So they're going to be pushing for federalization of the elections. The federalization is objectionable enough, but it's the details that are terrible in terms of the federalization would eventually surely end voter ID. Require abusive vote by mail mandates, and put ballot harvesting across the land. Ballot harvesting is giving your ballot to a third party and hoping the person gets it to the election box or polling place. You can imagine that's a major opportunity for fraud. So that's what's going on. That's what January 6th was about. And of course, there are all sorts of other political reasons they were trying to maximize the January 6th narrative. The other reason to maximize the January 6th narrative in terms of government corruption is by focusing on, it's kind of boring to say, oh, well, there was a major protest, a First Amendment legitimate protest that got out of hand and resulted in assaults on police officers and people doing things in the Capitol they weren't allowed to do that caused the risk to the public safety. Straightforward analysis. I have no doubt there were people afraid on the Hill that day. It was scary. I was watching it on TV. It looked scary to me. Police officers were injured. American citizens died. Ashley Babbitt was shot recklessly by Lieutenant Byrd. But the big question is, how did that peaceful protest turn into a riot? And so that falls on, in my view, Nancy Pelosi who is queen of the hill when it comes to making sure that the Capitol is secure. The security was lacking, and that provided an opportunity for agitators and those who were looking to cause trouble to get away with it. Riots happened because of poor decision making by police officials and the politicians who run them, or who they quote report to, in the case of Nancy Pelosi. So where's the accountability there? Now, Judicial Watch is in federal court right now asking, for instance, for emails about January 6th from the U.S. Capitol Police. We're asking for all the videos. And they've come back with respect to the videos, at least, and have said that not 1 second of video can be released to Judicial Watch. They're not, quote, public records, and the public doesn't have an interest in releasing them. So serving all sorts of privileges there, right? This is the same House that is trying to throw their political opponents in jail for asserting privileges in their subpoena fights with the 1-6 Rump Committee. And why do I call it Rump Committee? Because Rump is another way of calling it illegitimate. It's a one-party committee that has no representatives blessed by the Republicans. So it's a committee that's a totalitarian and authoritarian in nature. That's the way one-party governments operate. No opposition, no check. They're not only targeting innocent Americans by perusing and trying to get their phone records, but they're also trying to target members of Congress. So they're trying to blow up the Congress as well, blow up the House. So this is extremism, and it's against democracy, as they like to say. And it's extremism that's coming from Joe Biden. You could see that in his speech, and you see it with the operations of the 1-6 committee. And we're not going to be distracted. We're just going to keep on asking the questions we've been asking, getting information out that no one else is able to get because no one else is brave enough to ask. And we're certainly not going to be intimidated for trying to protect our elections and make sure they're safer and more secure.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.